Oh, come on, you're not seriously trying to say that children going to the doctor and saying that they're worried about their gender is akin to children being experimented on in Nazi concentration camps?
I'm afraid I am. A group of highly ideological cultists have taken over institutions across society.
And their ideology is whack. And our ideology is, sound.
Waiting for our colleagues to say, hang on a second, of course women deserve fair sports, of course children shouldn't be operated on and receive sterilising drugs. Yeah. The same drugs, may I add, that were given to Alan Turing to chemically castrate him.
Exactly.
And now they're giving it to gay children.
J.K. Rowling, please share this, this story. It would get across to so many more people. And I'm not sure if I've hurt your feelings or what, but you never tweet anything I do or say. I hope it's just a misunderstanding.
They targeted me and my family. They released my family's home address. They sent the police to my door several times. And at the same time, all these people who I had known for my whole life, had been friends with, just completely deserted me. A transgender woman has spoken of the hell on earth she suffered after being more than 2,000 times in an all-male prison, right? And it also says that they were in prison for 4 years. So someone wrote to me and they said 2,000 times in 4 years, 10 times a week, more than once a day, every day for 4 years.
Prisons are famously not nice places to be. They're cramped, dehumanizing, they punish people who don't deserve it or will be better off receiving help and rehabilitation. In fact, as one of those dangerous commies from the Alphabet Mafia or your local politicians warned you about, I personally like to see them done away with altogether, or at least transformed to the point where they're completely unrecognizable. But while we have these strange torture houses around and people are being sent to them, wouldn't it be funny if, instead of sending people there for carrying a pinch of the wacky-backy, we sent someone like, and I'm just spitballing here, Graham Linehan there instead?
Telling children they're non-binary or telling them they might be born into the wrong body is ideological grooming. Said that central figures in the trans movement are nonsense, and I'm afraid, again, it's true.
Now, before you go crazy in the comment section, I'm not suggesting we send people to prison for being too online, or for being so transphobic your wife leaves you. But for, the actual things he may or may not have allegedly done in the last several years of his extended transformation from beloved creator of Father Ted and the IT Crowd into someone with the good looks of Salacious Crumb and the personality of a version of Sheev Palpatine with no tact, and after 2 decades of sniffing glue. Okay, that's 2 glup shittos I've mentioned, and we're still in the intro. Time to move on before someone from the Star Wars fandom comes in to accuse me of ruining The Last Jedi by being trans and existing on the same planet as Rian Johnson. So, do you guys remember the IT Crowd?
Why they done that?
Remember that one episode where Matt Berry's character dates a trans woman, and it all ends with them having a drawn-out bar fight? Well, when watching this, did it ever occur to you that despite this plotline being both kind of mild rather than super offensive and extremely mid, that this episode and this subplot, given a few short years for the resentment of receiving minor criticism for this one tone-deaf trans plot to build, would be the focal point of its writer, Graham Linehan's, complete descent into madness?
I love that you used to be a man. It's your thing. I love thinking about that operation that you had.
And I mean madness. He even claimed that a British supermarket featuring me, of all people, in an advert for strawberries was sexual harassment against lesbians. And many years on, he is divorced, is moving to America to live with Rob Schneider, of all people.
Rob Schneider was an animal, and now Rob Schneider is a stapler.
Making a MAGA comedy for the most loyal foot soldiers of the McReich, burning bridges with everyone he once called a friend.
We've been basically swinging in the wind, waiting for our colleagues to say, hang on a second, of course women deserve fair sports, of course children shouldn't be operated on and receive sterilising drugs. The same drugs, may I add, that were given to Alan Turing to chemically castrate him.
And he's abandoned all of his previously held principles, from learning to be homophobic to deciding Palestinians are bad actually, and they should all be ruthlessly. Truly, Graham Linehan is one of the greatest minds in comedy history. He's also facing several charges in court. So, could Graham Linehan, a man so vile and disgusting he decided England was too woke for him and had to move to Trump's America, soon be behind bars?
Girl, prison, honey.
Well, luckily for you, that is the question I will be asking today. I, Brigitte Empire, science and culture correspondent for the Daily Telegraph, where one day Graham Linehan's corrupted and mold-infested soul will come to rest. We already have the magic circle and the ceremonial carbonara for one prepared. We're waiting, Graham! For those of you who weren't around or were too busy touching grass during Graham Linehan's rise and fall, let me give you an extremely brief rundown of who this guy even is and why he went from one of the most beloved comedians in the UK and Ireland to a violent and vomit-inducing lolcow, who's somehow too disgusting for even J.K. Rowling to acknowledge him. And she's practically 90% mold at this point.
J.K. Rowling, please share this, this story. It would get across to so many more people. And I'm not sure if I've hurt your feelings or what, but you never tweet anything I do or say. I hope it's just a misunderstanding.
Graham Linehan was born in Ireland in 1968. He was one of the best-known comedy writers in Ireland and the UK during the 90s and the 2000s, credited most notably for Father Ted, a sitcom about priests on a remote Irish island.
I hear you're a racist now, Father!
Black Books, which apparently he barely did anything on and was let go after season 1 of, but he gets credit for anyway.
Just look at this bastard.
And the IT Crowd, the show in which Linehan wrote a badly thought-out trans character in and subsequently ruined his entire life, rather than accept or even just ignore extremely minor criticism.
You bastard.
For a while, it looked like he would be, in the midst of becoming the most prolific and certifiably frothing at the mouth transphobe, to the point of getting the police called on him for harassment and ending his marriage rather than stop being a miserable little troll, making a musical out of Father Ted. But he was too transphobic for that, and was offered a buyout, which he refused, instead screaming about how trans people are all horrible sex-criming demons in a work meeting, which warranted this exchange, as documented in his no good, awful, horrible, very sad book Tough Crowd, which I have a whole video covering.
After writing that letter, you had the audacity to turn up in front of the people you sent the letter to and ask what you were being accused of, framing it once again as no one ever having been able to tell you why you shouldn't be defending your daughter. And they can't do that because you're not defending your daughter. This has nothing to do with her. It never has. And I'll just leave how you describe how the meeting following the letter went on screen now for everyone. Because I don't think you realize how bad this makes you look. Graham, you are not the hero in this story you're telling. Even in your own version of it. I read your version. God knows how the other perspectives would look. Trans people were not in the room when you ruined your career. Trans people were not in the room with your family as it fell apart. You've described both of those events in this book, and the common denominator in them is not trans people. It's you.
They took everything from me, you know.
Like what? What do you mean?
They took my family, you know.
These days, Graham is much more known for that kind of incident than for his actual comedy work. Although that might be about to change, because he's MAGA now, despite claiming to be a lefty and a progressive until a few short years ago, and still, I think, in denial about being MAGA, despite hanging out with all MAGA people and praising all their stuff, and is making production company with other noted conservative reactionary freaks such as Rob Schneider, off of that movie where he plays a woman, that movie where he plays a pickle, and maybe that was South Park, I can't tell anymore. Rob Schneider doesn't feel like a real person to me anymore. Him and Linehan both look like an ugly, seething Wojak some asshole trying to win an argument with you on the internet would draw of you being mad rather than actually respond to your points.
Rob Schneider is a carrot.
But Rob Schneider aside, will Graham Linehan be able to leave the country to pursue his dream of writing terrible comedy shows about how all queers are evil demons, alongside one of the least funny comedians in the already quite disappointing American comedy scene? Well, that all depends on whether he's still a free man by the time he officially makes the jump.
I'm very, very, very angry. I'm so angry. I sometimes think this thing can't make me any angrier, and then it makes me angrier. It's an extraordinary thing, the capacity this has to make me angry.
You see, Graham Linehan has been reacting fairly badly to trans people existing, since he got some extremely minor criticism from one for a badly thought out scene in one of his TV shows. And he may have done some crimes, allegedly. I already brought up the harassment accusations that brought the police to his door years ago, but there is more. And I'm here to talk about it today, because I admittedly think it's quite funny to imagine Graham Linehan facing consequences for his actions. Sue me. Or don't, because now the J.K. Rowling Women's Fund exists, so you could probably do that with her money. And because I would just immediately declare bankruptcy and you'd get nothing out of it. Speaking of which, please subscribe to my Patreon. You get early videos, and you get to join our Discord community and get your name read out too, or give me tips on coffee. Please, before I get sued by J.K. Rowling. Anyway, now you've definitely sent me money, thank you very much. Back to the video.
For the poor.
I bring up Rob Schneider multiple times here. One, because anyone thinking making comedy with Rob fucking Schneider of all people will say the career is incredibly funny. After all, Schneider's filmography makes Adam Sandler movies look like Citizen fucking Kane. And two, because in light of the criminal charges we're discussing here that are most likely to lead to Graham Linehan receiving real-life consequences, his most vocal defender was indeed Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider, derp de derp.
And everyone's least favourite American comedy actor beside Amy Schumer's own words, more UK anti-free speech stupidity! Graham Linehan will be writing, directing his new show this fall, in a country where this trans harassment stupidity would be left out of court, along with the R-word who brought the charges. Now, I don't know about you, but if I were accused of criminal harassment, I wouldn't exactly be thrilled about my most normal defender claiming the charges are invalid because my opponent was, well, a slur that is only used by people over the age of 14 if they are severely allergic to being normal. But these charges do have to be pretty significant if Graham needs to commission Hollywood Z-listers like Rob Schneider to defend him, right? Well, yes, they might well be. But let's look at exactly what these charges are, and if we can decide for ourselves whether we are on the side of trans people being harassed by this giant turnip man, or the ever-respectable star of Deuce Bigalow European Gigolo. According to the far-left trans-obsessed criminals at the BBC, Father Ted co-creator Graham Linehan has pleaded not guilty to harassment and criminal damage against a transgender woman. The 56-year-old denied 2 charges, including one of harassing Sophia Brooks, 18, a transgender activist, on social media in October. He is also accused of damaging her phone during the Battle of Ideas conference in London in the same month, at which he was a speaker. The case will go to trial in September. Okay, so we will see Graham Linehan in those incredible court sketches this September, where he will have to face down what he has supposedly done to Sophia Brooks. Surely, however, since he has pled not guilty to harassment and criminal damage, he definitely didn't do it, right? I mean, he claimed he didn't, but it'd be a shame then if he had shared footage of this incident and confirmed it was him online, because that would make him look extremely guilty and incompetent. Oh wait, that's exactly what he did! Here's just some of the evidence, so you can look it up yourself.
This groomer has been filming people all day.
And you've been calling children domestic terrorists on Twitter.
Scumbag and an
You're
incel
a scumbag. You're the incel. You're divorced.
That he's a woman. So he
You're
can get into women's
divorced.
faces.
You're divorced,
he's
Graham.
A disgusting.
You're disgusting, Graham. You're divorced.
Sissy porn
What?
watching scumbag.
And you're calling me the groomer
There
when
you
you're
go,
assuming.
Julie Bindel, herself a rancid transphobic piece of shit, tweeting on October the 23rd, 2024, "Look at this utter bellend, who incidentally was waiting with Fred at the end of the day to harass women, including me. Wankers." By which Bindel obviously means talking to, because they were at the Battle of Ideas festival, which is a very funny place to go to and especially speak at if you can't handle people disagreeing with you. It's called Battle of Ideas, not ideas everyone has to agree with. Anyway, Graham Linehan, helpfully for the prosecution, gave us a little quote tweet confirming, "Well, I'm quite proud that I grabbed his phone and threw it across the road. He was furious." And with apologies for Linehan's misgendering, that is literally an admission of guilt. Apparently, this is someone you were already harassing, which doesn't look good, but you stole her phone and broke it by throwing it across the road. I love it when my enemies admit to crimes online, and now he gets to try and explain this in court in a way that matches his not guilty verdict. I'm assuming that he's probably going to be his own representative in this. And let me tell you, he is very, very bad at defending himself. Spoilers for the next section, but he has now had to argue in his own defense that accusing someone of being a PDF file online is not defamatory. Guess how well that case is going? Actually, I am going to spoil this because it's too funny for me to keep it in. He tried to claim that he wasn't defaming the person suing him because the whole tone of the comment is abusive, simply exhibiting extreme dislike for the claimant. The use of nonce is just more abuse. I object, Your Honour! I wasn't defaming the client! I was only abusing him! Okay, maybe he's still got it. Maybe he is still funny after all. Following the incident with the phone, or it's known in legalese, the clear-cut case of criminal damages, he began relentlessly stalking this woman, as if destroying her personal property wasn't annoying enough. But it's par for the course for Linehan, who only a few months prior to this incident recorded a podcast with prolific abuser of women Joey Barton, who himself was on trial for assaulting his wife, grabbing her by the throat and kicking her in the head. This is the self-proclaimed defender of women, truly in his element. You can find Graham Linehan relentlessly harassing Sophia Brooks with a simple search on Twitter. He constantly calls her Tarquin because right-wingers seem to think all trans people are rich kids who went to private school rather than people from every walk of life imaginable. And Tarquin is like a funny posh kid's name. This harassment includes trying to get Sophia arrested, which is insane, as documented in this tweet. "This is Tarquin, threatening to disrupt my ability to work in the US. Me and some of his other victims handed in a 400-page evidence file to UK police, which led to his arrest by the Met Police. Yesterday, they decided no further action." After which Stephanie Hayden, one of the first people to sue Graham Linehan for harassment, revealed that Graham had been interviewed under caution by the Met Police on suspicion of assault and criminal damage. Presumably, him handing in a 400-page manifesto of his hatred for the woman he attacked did not help his cause. See also these tweets, where Graham Linehan is desperately trying to discover where Sophia lives and studies, so he can presumably beg the university to drop her from the course for the crime of being transgender in his general vicinity. "We believe Tarquin is studying computer science somewhere in London. If you know him and want to help stop him harassing people, please get in touch." Quite a rich thing to say for someone mid-harassment, but he's not done. "He seems like it has a good computer sciences course. Can anyone confirm? It's for a thing." And I'm sure it was for a thing. But whatever thing it was for, that thing led to him being put on trial. Unfortunately for all of us, he was granted bail on the condition that he did not contact Sophia directly or indirectly, which I'm sure is very hard for him, even if it would lead to him going directly to jail. Because it would mean he doesn't get to harass her anymore, or at least until 4th of September, where we will see the grand finale of The Trial of Graham Linehan, his greatest work of comedy in a decade. The teaser? The fact that after he left court, he claimed he had for 6 years defended the rights of women and children and faced abuse and threats, despite this being literally about him harassing and abusing a teenage girl. And not just her.
He said, "You have cancer of the testicles." I said, "Okay, what's the bad news?" He said, "That's as good as it's going to get for 5 years." Don't go, "Oh."
Transphobes might possibly try to bring up this video of Sophia at the event in question, where she's clearly documented the event, one in which you can hear clearly in the background a transphobe who sounds like Helen Joyce, so I'm assuming it's Helen Joyce of all trans people. Even happy trans people are a difficulty and a huge problem to her same world fame, so you can imagine why a trans woman might think it worthy to investigate a public talk from someone who thinks she shouldn't be allowed to exist. Their criticism seems to boil down to, look, she's tall and she's taking photographs. She's a terrifying monster trying to ruin our incredibly normal events where we talk about how she and people like her should all die. And half of their defense is just questioning her being a vulnerable minor. A vulnerable female minor. As if being tall and transgender automatically ages you out of being a minor? That's not how age works. Regardless of what they think, however, random transphobes on Twitter do not decide the law, except in that case of the bathroom ban from Sex Matters. Anyway, in April this year, the Crown Prosecution Service confirmed Graham Linehan had been charged with harassment without violence and criminal damage. "We will see you in court, you strange, strange man." In his own words, outside the court, to the press, "I've lost a great deal, but I'm still here, and I will not waver in my resolve." And it is that resolve to remain the most prolific harasser of trans women on the internet that will, I believe, end in a guilty verdict. Now, you would think from the way he's been acting on the internet in the past, well, it's gotta be a decade at this point, that he's pretty confident he's never going to be held accountable for his actions. But this is not the first time his consistent harassment of trans women and accusations of anyone who's even remotely friendly to trans people of being abusive monsters who are probably also has landed him in legal hot water. Even without the legal trouble, he did end up losing a lot of job opportunities because he's such a brand risk. And clearly, given the evidence from his own accounts of the way Father Ted the Musical ended, he is impossible to work with, given his absolute obsession with monstering trans people and making sure we all end up in... Well, I don't want to get sued, so in my opinion, he wants us to end in the same place he once famously accused trans people of being like prison guards for. Okay, that's too vague. We're going to have to roll the clip. Dan, roll the clip. And don't trip over the unholy carbonara. We need that for September.
Oh, come on. You're not seriously trying to say that children going to the doctor and saying that they're worried about their gender is akin to children being experimented on in Nazi concentration camps?
I'm afraid I am. The thing about the Nazi comment was what I was trying to get across was just like during the Nazis. And we always ask ourselves the same questions. We ask ourselves, what would I have done?
What about comparing people in the trans debate to speaking out against Nazis? I mean,
would I have bowed down? Would I have done everything I was told to do? Or would I have resisted? Would I have stood up alongside people who were trying to do the right thing?
What the fuck?
Of course, it's not just comparing trans people to Auschwitz guards, harassing people online, and throwing people's stuff into rows that Graham Linehan has done, even though trivialising the should have been the thing that got him at minimum an intervention way back when. He supports the horrors in Gaza now, presumably because most trans people are anti-. Despite bragging in his book about convincing his father to not be homophobic, he now frequently screams at gay people and makes out like pride flags as swastikas. He accused H from Steps of being a PDF file after he made some pro-trans statements, for the crime of having the same name as the singer from Lost Prophets who actually was one. He denies climate change now. He spoke at the literal Conservative Party conference, despite claiming to be a lefty not too long ago, and more and more and more. Honestly, he said so much horrible shit online it's almost impossible to document. I mentioned the frankly libelous things he said about me a while back. Thankfully, my name wasn't attached to the advert he was attacking, and thus he didn't know my name to attach to his horrific claims. He threatened fellow trans YouTuber Essence of Thought with a lawsuit for calling him out when he was promoting conversion therapy for trans kids, and, even more relevant for this video, he was slapped with the long dick of the law for harassment and defamation, as the BBC reported back in 2018. The co-creator, Father Ted, has been given a verbal warning by police for alleged harassment following a row on Twitter with a transgender woman. Graham Linehan was told by West Yorkshire Police not to contact Stephanie Hayden. She reported him for referring to her as he and for tweeting the names she used before transitioning. Miss Hayden, 45, is now suing the writer. Mr. Linehan, 50, told the BBC he is also considering taking action against her. West Yorkshire Police say, a law enforcement body that only looks like an upstanding agency because it's always compared to the absolute bloodless psychos at the Met. Still, they did their job here, and it wasn't without merit. Graham Linehan retweeted her previous names and pictures of her after all, and that's just a taste. Stephanie Hayden ended up pursuing civil proceedings accusing him of harassment, defamation, and misuse of private information. Linehan famously got a warning from the police after this, something he has been whining about ever since, including in his book, as if getting a knock on his door for relentlessly harassing a trans woman was a hate crime. Graham Linehan later told the BBC that, "The police phoned me and told me to stay away. I would love to keep Stephanie away from me and my family, and I have no intention of speaking to Stephanie. I will call my trans friends she. I think of them as women. They're respectful and are not misogynists, but I refuse to respect the pronouns of misogynists." Misogynist, of course, here meaning disagrees with Graham Linehan, because he's every woman. It's all in him. Despite this statement already being pretty transphobic, he would change his mind on this too. He now misgenders every trans person, and uses the wrong names for them, even making up male names for trans women whose dead names he can't find during his attempts to dox and defame them. Graham fought a case from Hayden in 2020 by crowdfunding on Crowd Justice, for which he raised over £31,000. Clarifying on his crowdfunder, Stephanie Hayden apparently dropped the original case against him, presumably assuming he'd leave her alone since he publicly and to the police said that he would. Clearly, he did not. And 2 years later, she had to make the fuck sure he stopped. By this point, he'd stopped trying to sound like he was taking a stand, and was starting to sound like the pathetic worm he actually is. Hi, my name is Graham Linehan. I'm the author or co-author of the sitcoms Father Ted, the IT Crowd Black Books, Count Arthur Strong and Motherland. And for around 3 years, I've been fighting the same people sending death to feminists such as Meghan Murphy and J.K. Rowling. Many people want me to stop, but I won't shut up while women are being erased, harassed and silenced. Unfortunately,
My activism meant I came to the attention of Stephanie Hayden, a self-styled lawyer, although not in fact qualified as a solicitor or barrister, who has so far launched more than 20 legal actions against people Stephanie wants silenced because their views do not align with Hayden's views. Hayden uses the police and courts to target enemies, and this is the second time I've been sued by Hayden. I believe that Hayden launches these actions merely to run up the cost for their victims, as part of the process of pressurising people into being silenced. Because of my presence in this fight, however, my income is not at the level it was when it was still possible to buy Father Ted boxed sets. I want to do my best to make it impossible for Hayden to continue to launch these vexatious claims. In response to this crowdfunder, Stephanie Hayden explained on Twitter that Graham's lawyers had told her they would not fight the case and asked to give her a month so they could work out a settlement agreement. Presumably he is crowdfunding these settlement fees with this extremely narcissistically worded sob story. Hayden also points out that Linehan's last crowdfunder funds were used to buy a single turf, a mattress, so not exactly fighting in the courts for the right to be bigoted, although I suppose many other groups have successfully done so. They just happen to not involve Graham Linehan, who appears to be cosmically drawn to losing legal cases. Stephanie Hayden does confirm in this thread, however, that Graham Linehan lied when he said that she dropped her first case against him. She didn't just decide to give him a chance as the articles written around the case and Graham himself implied. Instead, Linehan requested a drop hand settlement, which Hayden granted on the condition that Linehan meet the £28,000 in legal costs. I mean, that doesn't sound like a victory for me, but I'm not Graham Linehan. I mean, his wife left him for being transphobic, and he still came out convinced he was in the right. Congratulations, by the way, to Helen Saravinovich. I hope you're having a much better life.
And their ideology is whack. And our ideology is, sound.
There's more to this saga, but just covering this, if I did it in detail, would extend the runtime of this video for several more hours. And there's one more case against Graham Linehan I really want to discuss before this video is over. One that is still ongoing, and one that truly shows the level of brain rot Graham Linehan has sustained between that one episode of the IT Crowd and the decade of constant rage and harassment that followed. This has long passed him saying trans people are like Auschwitz guards, and he's since moved on to getting damn well near full QAnon. I'm talking, of course, about the case David Paisley has taken up against Graham Linehan. As Paisley's lawyers note, to sum up the charges, our client, David Paisley, a former actor and prominent LGBT rights activist, brought a claim against Graham Linehan for libel and other torts, including harassment, breach of data, and breach of privacy. This case involves 7 publications on Linehan's Substack account, which included articles written by Linehan and comments from readers. The central issues in the preliminary hearing were the meanings of the statements, whether they were defamatory, and whether they were statements of fact or opinion. Okay, well, yeah, that sounds pretty bad, but it gets worse, because this is the case I brought up earlier, and the claims Graham Linehan made against Paisley for the crime of being for trans rights while an LGBT activist was that he was, well, what QAnon thinks every Democrat is. And yes, Graham's defense was that it couldn't be defamation because he wasn't calling him a nonce as part of a smear, but as part of an ongoing pattern of abuse. Which is definitely what someone who isn't guilty would say. In a way, this was inevitable, because if you get obsessed enough with the idea of a group of activist lefties being evil, and you don't get any social interaction with anyone who thinks differently, just with people who agree with you, to the point of being completely isolated from your family and friends, you will reach the inevitable QAnonization of your obsession. Namely, everyone I disagree with is a paedophile. Although, if you really want to be fair to Graham Linehan here, you could read what he wrote in his 2 separate crowdfunding campaigns for this case. According to Graham Linehan, this is who David Paisley is. David Paisley is an actor who describes himself as an LGBT advocate. He is a very vocal supporter of gender identity ideology. Under the guise of trans activism, he has used his social media profile to attack and vilify feminists and LGBT groups who are standing up against the potential dangers of gender ideology. By way of example, he attacked the registered charity LGBT Alliance, making groundless allegations that it is a hate group. He even set up a petition in an effort to rob it of any voice in the media. When the LGBT Alliance hosted an online discussion about gender identity ideology and its implications for gay men, Boys Magazine promoted this event via its Twitter account. Simply because Boys Magazine promoted a discussion of which he did not approve, David Paisley tried to sabotage the magazine by publicly tweeting its advertisers and the venues. where it is distributed. Paisley targeted Carrie Black after she wrote about her experiences being a CSA survivor in the context of gender identity ideology potentially being used as a Trojan horse by predatory males to gain access to victims.
A transgender woman has spoken of the hell on earth she suffered after being more than 2,000 times in an all-male prison, right? And it also says that they were in prison for 4 years. So someone wrote to me and they said, 2,000 times in 4 years, 10 times a week, more than once a day, every day for 4 years.
Exponents of this ideology have, by various means, tried to force me to stop speaking out about it. However, I will not stand by while women are being stripped of their rights and intimidated into silence, while homosexual people are being vilified and abused, and while children are being convinced their body is wrong and turned into lifelong medical patients. The issues that concern me have been widely covered in the press, and most recently, the scandal of placing specific individuals in women's prisons in Scotland has been uncovered. This has exposed the fallacy behind the gender identity ideology, and the clear risk that can be caused to women by allowing self-identification to determine how society is required to treat individuals who are born male but decide to identify as female. I operate a Substack site and a YouTube channel on which I talk about these issues, drawing attention to the tactics of some of the most high-profile exponents of gender identity ideology, and have drawn attention to the harm that can be caused. It is sometimes necessary to discuss the individuals who are this ideology's most vociferous advocates, especially the ones trying to denigrate and silence those of us standing up for what we believe. As you may know, I'm being sued by a man called David Paisley, who is alleging that I have libelled and harassed him via my website and social media accounts. I am fighting these unfounded allegations with the help of my highly supportive legal team, and for that, I'm afraid, I will need to ask for help with the legal costs. Graham Linehan received over £139,000 for that fundraiser, and apparently it wasn't enough, because he had to make another for the same case, which crowdfunded over £125,000. Imagine if these trans-obsessed weirdos spent that money on something actually important, like, say, getting food into Palestine, or the Congo, or Sudan, or even if they insist on keeping it in the UK, ending child poverty. Apparently none of these things hold a candle to the importance of one strange former comedy writer with the looks and the intelligence and, let's be honest, probably the hygiene of a cave troll, so he can keep calling an LGBT activist a nonce. As if this isn't exactly the same rhetoric that was used against gay people in the 80s and 90s. The very same gay people these people always claim to be defending when they attack trans people, despite, you know, all evidence to the contrary, and the fact that most gay people are supportive of trans people. If you're interested, this last crowdfunder had 8 days left to go at the time of writing, and may not actually get to its goal of £150,000 or more before it's over. I'll update on the screen now where I got to. But it's hard to gloat at a demon like Linehan not meeting his funding goals when he's already getting more money than I'll probably make in a fucking lifetime for doing the good work of pedo-jacketing an LGBT activist. What a world we live in.
I'm very, very, very angry. I'm so angry. I sometimes think this thing can't make me any angrier, and then it makes me angrier. It's an extraordinary thing, the capacity this has to make me angry.
Well, whether Linehan likes it or not, he's probably going to have to pay up. The High Court, after all, in April, according to Doughty Street Chambers, found defamatory paedophile meanings in the Paisley versus Linehan judgment, which shouldn't be shocking, given Linehan literally said those words about Paisley, like those exact words. But these days, I'm actually quite surprised when transphobes don't just win by default, especially after the recent Supreme Court decision. So let me briefly read more from the case just to make it clear what a clear-cut case of defamation this was, which makes it even more disgusting that Graham Linehan has sucked up over £250,000 from crowdfunders just to lose in spectacular fashion for smearing an activist as a nonce. In an earlier judgment, Deputy High Court Judge Aidan Eardley KC had held that 6 articles in a common thread on the defendant's Substack were defamatory of the claimant. In the current judgment, he ruled that publications 4.1 and 4.2 conveyed the defamatory opinions that the claimant is a pedophile and is rightly to be described as a pedophile, until 4.1 was deleted by the writer. Publication 4.2 continued to convey a defamatory factual imputation about the claimant seeking to normalise adult male nudity in the presence of children. publication 4.3 was held to convey the defamatory factual imputation that the claimant was party to a coordinated attempt by to manipulate, threaten, or coerce those who were trying to expose and defeat their strategy of adopting LGBT causes in order to enhance their ability to children. I felt dirty even reading that out. I'm no big city lawyer, but that screams defamation. Which does make me wonder why Linehan keeps insisting that he's not guilty for these charges. Doing all these fundraisers, making more allegations. Clearly he is guilty. He's written and done all these things he's getting accused of. And what's more, like the case he'll be answering for in court in September, not only did he admit to the crimes, he's bragged about them. And yet he stands there claiming he's not guilty, thinking he's making the stand of a century. Graham, you're not a martyr. You're barely even a man. You're pathetic. A shadow of a human being. Insisting on losing every ounce of dignity, throwing accusation after accusation at anyone you can, simply because you cannot admit that you are wrong. Simply because you cannot stop for a minute and reflect on your actions and the totality of what you've done to your own life. Because if you admit that you were wrong, that means you lost your friends for nothing. You lost your job for nothing. You lost opportunity after opportunity for nothing. You lost your status as a legendary and admired writer for nothing. People used to look up to you. I looked up to you once upon a time. All of that, gone. You could have been remembered as one of the greatest comedy writers of a generation. Now you'll just be remembered as a hateful little worm with a face like a soiled cabbage. If you admit you were wrong, that means you lost your home for nothing. You lost your family for nothing. You lost your wife for nothing. Should that not be a wake-up call? Even the possibility that that's true would wake most of us up. How many of these L's are you going to take before you question this ridiculous crusade you've been on? Until you wake up and realize you threw away everything good in your life just because you received some extremely mild criticism for a TV show that no one even cares about anymore? Wouldn't it be nice to come home to your children, to wake up next to your wife in the morning, to have a morning coffee surrounded by smiles and love, instead of falling asleep to the beep, beep, beep of the microwave, reminding you that your carbonara was reheated hours ago, and you're unable to move to get it from your sweat-stained mattress for tweeting about whichever trans person or ally is going to sue you for defamation or harassment next? Wouldn't it be nice to be part of society again? To talk to people who don't know you primarily through Twitter? Who want to talk to you because they care about you, and not just because you hate the same persecuted minorities? I don't know about you, but I'd walk through hell to live a life as nice as it seems you had before you did this to yourself. Most of us would kill for that. And the worst thing about this is you sabotaged it entirely yourself. It was completely avoidable. You were happy once. You were happy with your career and your legacy and your family. Are you happy now? It doesn't look like it. Well, however Linehan's feeling, I hope the rest of you are. Happy, that is, not like him. Until next time, where I presumably get sued by Graham Linehan for accusing him of looking like if a cane toad got stung by 1,000 bees. Thanks for watching. Hey, thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. Give it a like, subscribe to my channel, give a comment. Tell me in the comments what you think of Graham Linehan. You think he's right? Do you think he's wrong? Do you think he looks like turnip? Yeah, do that. Give me money. So listen, if Graham Linehan can make all that money, give some to me. He got like $250,000. I need £2,000 to get out of this overdraft. So you can do that. You can legitimately get me out of debt, and that will stop me paying overdraft fees, which I fucking hate. You can do that by giving one-time donations on Ko-fi or PayPal, links below as always, or sign up to my Patreon or YouTube memberships. I wouldn't give me £1,000 a month because it seems like that would drain your bank account quite quickly. I mean, if you're a millionaire, then go ahead and do it. I'm not going to stop you. There's worse things spending money on. Clearly, there's Graham Linehan's crowdfunders, which just go straight down the toilet, apparently, because he's done all the crimes he's been accused of and bragged about them. But you could give it to me. I mean, I'm not going to do any crimes. I don't think. Have I done any crimes? I guess I smoked weed before, but like, I'm not going to. Allegedly, I've not done that. I've never done any crimes. Never crimed. Never been gay. Done crimes. Yeah, you can give me, if you want to, like Patreon, YouTube memberships. Both of those you can give me money regularly, or you can give me one-offs, or do me regularly. But if you give me regularly, as I'm rambling about, you will get exclusive content, such as long-form interviews with people I interviewed for this channel. You will get access to the members-only Discord with lovely people who I love on it. They are cool as fuck, and you will get to talk to them if you want. You'll get early videos when they come out early, which they often do, sometimes days or weeks early, because I work in batches. And yeah, and then you will get your name right at the end of each video, and you could get that as well. And if you pay me £2,000 to get me out my overdraft, I will get your name tattooed on my body. Will I do that? Yes, I will. Yes, I will do that. I guess the tattoo's also going to cost money, but you know, less than £2,000. So we'll make that happen. LFR, these are the people that are my patrons. I need to stop myself. I'm just going to read them out. It's very hot here. I'm sorry. These are my patrons. I love them. LFR, Ahmed bin Motaradzi, Taylor Wood, Treekoi, Ariella, Hannah, Proquar, Robin Thomas, Emily Eisenberg, Kathy 1410 Itchy, Danielle Van Harmelin, Big Lil Boat, John Geddes, Kira B, No Sparkling Heart, Corey, Gianna J, Mighty and the Sword, Carolyn, Imogen Q, Luciano Frias Andrade, Adam, Harry, Endog191, Cav, Quesadilla, the Tortilla Azul, Baron, Adam Lees, Daniel Nevels, No Not That Paul, MB Wondering Wonder, Lex Phoenix, Enter the Grizzits, Mira D, Jade Senior, Boa Ear, James W, Marvin All, Foreign Gill, Bob the Builder 544554, Deborah Laboon, Vich, Zil Sathanian, Vince Whitaker, Amelia Bassett, Jason Haig, Frank McManus, Susan Foster, Helen Urel, Sierra Whiskey, Ali, Catkill, John N, Lloyd Luciente, Jason Cribbett, Shield Data, Ron Podolski, Nightlight Plushie, Jesus, Manta Ray, Courtney Burmack, Sleepy Slug, Philippa Brogger, Soma Piglet, Brain Douche, Artie Wolf, Greg Noble, Deanna Millen, Caroline Regalado, Alexander Lilly, PJ Lisborough, Howard Lott, Nerania, Scarjan, Melissa Allen, Butt Burglar, Ataxis Builds Things, Sarah Francesca Smith, and Rachel. Love you all. Have an amazing day. Do not get done for libel. And do not donate to Graham Linehan's crowdfunders, because he will use them to buy a single transphobe mattress. I don't think they cost £250,000, so presumably the rest is going on his settlement fees. So don't do that. Don't. Give me money instead. I'd be so owned if you gave me money. Graham Linehan, if you're here, you can give your crowdfunder money to me. I'll be really owned. I will take this video down if Graham Linehan sends me £250,000. That's not a joke. I will actually do that, because that's more money than I've ever seen in my entire life, and probably will ever see. So, Graham, get on that. I don't love you. And I might do that. We can talk. You can DM me. I'll be your one contact that's not out of their mind, and I'll de-radicalize you. I probably can't do that. I need to shut up. It's late June here, and it is the hottest I've been, and I know, unfortunately, that August will be worse. I love summer, but oh boy, did I forget what summer is like here. Does make me miss Britain. Don't tell Keir Starmer I said that. All right, goodbye!